All right, everyone, welcome back into another NFL DFS video. Going to be touching on the top plays for the afternoon slate on DraftKings. And just real quickly, I do want to start this video with saying, man, the ownership yesterday was so strange. I mean, Corey Clement and Tyson Williams, two of the obvious plays at the running back position were combined like 3% owned. I know you guys probably covered that and probably played them. They both went for around 5 or so DraftKings points, which in preseason DFS is obviously pretty obvious. I don't know. I'm utterly confused on how that happened. That was super strange. Yesterday, we saw that there was a lack of really quality quarterback plays. I think I gave you guys that message pretty clearly. Today, it seems like the opposite. Today, we have some pretty strong quarterback plays that actually already started off pretty well with Malik Willis scoring a rushing touchdown, one of my favorite plays on the slate for the early slate. So hopefully you guys took advantage of that. But looking at this slate, we're going to do what we do, go game by game and break it down. Hopefully we can continue the success that we've had, 3 straight profitable slates. And what has there been? 3 straight preseason slate. So hopefully you've been able to take advantage of that. Let's start with the New York Jets versus Carolina Panthers game. And for me, with the New York Jets, I think the strategy is just really going to be to run it back with the players that we were on for the Hall of Fame game. Okay. Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle are most likely going to get a full half of football. That is what I have seen reported. And that's going to be because Chris Streveler was now waived by the team because he got injured in that game, hurting his hand. So with that being said, I do think it would have made logical sense for Zach Wilson to get a ton of playing time in this game as well, regardless of if he was active. I do expect Zach Wilson to get a full half of football. Yes, he kind of had a weird game in the first preseason game. Oh, well, I really like him. And for what it's worth, guys, if Zach Wilson is going to be getting a full half of football, this number seems too low for him as well. Honestly, the same thing for Tim Boyle, because they're both going to get a full half of football. That, to me, is something I'm excited about. And with that being said, we could easily go back to the well with something like Brownlee Jr. And so looking at it, he was someone that they did try to get involved. Like the process was correct with him. 5 targets in that game, right? Like we nailed that. It just didn't come to fruition. So as long as we can continue to kind of get those targets out of him, I think he's going to be a viable option for us this preseason game. And I do expect him to get a little bit more playing time. That being said, we did see 2 running backs get around 9 carries. One of them being the rookie there. And as you guys will see, I do think he's going to be someone we can go back to the well with. Now, I don't really love the running back as much. I think Jason Brownlee is going to be a player that we're going out of our way to play. And strangely enough, I kind of do view Zach Wilson as a player that we do want to go out of our way to play as well. Obviously, I don't mind the idea of stacking those 2 together. Looking at the other side of the football, we got the Carolina Panthers. So we do know that Bryce Young is going to start in this game. The question is, how much are those starters going to play? If you guys watched the Houston game, I do think that's going to be the same expectation for like the amount of playing time that Bryce Young ends up getting. Bryce Young should probably play around 2 series or so, okay? We don't know the playing time for sure, but that's what I'm expecting. We do see that they do have a limited team in terms of running back depth, and that is something that gets me excited because honestly we could end up rolling with 2 of these players at the running back position. I do want to point out that Blackshear is someone that has been getting a lot of hype out of camp, or a decent amount of hype out of camp. I shouldn't say a lot of hype out of camp. There's other players on other teams that certainly have been getting more hype than him, but he's a player that does make a lot of logical sense to not only get like 10 or so opportunities, but to be an efficient runner. So we look at that game against the Jets last game as well. We saw the Jets run for 172 yards. Now, yes, some of that is due to the quarterback having a really solid game, DTR there, but they gave up a touchdown as well. Okay, so maybe there's something there. Maybe their second string, third string, fourth string defensive unit is just not that good at stopping the run. So maybe we even try to run 2 of these players out. Now, I do expect Cameron Peoples to get the second half workload, maybe the 4th quarter. We'll see if that's going to be enough for him to produce, but he is someone I think is certainly going to be in play as well. Let's go and move on into the next game. This is probably going to be one of my favorite games on the slate today. So last year, the Jacksonville Jaguars, preseason-wise, were a freaking gold mine, okay? And this year, they might be as well. At quarterback, I don't really expect Trevor Lawrence to get that much playing time. I haven't seen anything confirmed on that just yet as to if he's going to play or get playing time. Now, the starters as a whole are expected to play, so I do expect him to get some work. The question is how much. And then after that, how much playing time do we expect for CJ Beathard? Because if we can get a full half of football out of him, that's going to be intriguing. But really, to me, the plays that we're going to look at are going to be the running back position and the receiver position, because last year they were 8th in rushing attempts. They had the most passing attempts and most passing yards. So they are a team that we certainly should be looking at. The question is, which players should we be looking at? And yes, Tank Bigsby has been someone that's been getting a ton of hype out of camp. And just due to that, I do think we need to be on him because it makes logical sense for him to get some playing time. The worry is maybe he has been getting too much hype to the point where they already know what they have in him, don't really want to get too much of a look on him for other teams to get film on him. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think we're fine. After that, JaMycal Hasty, a very good pass catching back. It'd be nice to see him get a couple of catches in this one, and that just comes down to playing time. How much playing time will he get? Snoop Gardner was a guy that they liked last year in the preseason. He's someone that could have a good preseason again. Just something noteworthy. Maybe if you're trying to game stack that game, someone you could play there. But it's really going to be the receiver position that stands out to me. The one player that's going to be getting the most height has been Kevin Austin Jr., okay, and yeah, he's an interesting click. I think he's going to be an easy click, just given how much the Jaguars passed the football last year. I think we want to be looking at least one receiver, but there are two others I also like. Parker Washington, one of my favorite rookie receivers. We already saw my other favorite rookie receiver, Trey Palmer, really have an awesome game last game. Once again, hopefully you guys were able to take advantage of that and play him. Parker Washington, just a good receiver, a solid receiver, kind of a, I don't want to say like Chris Godwin, DJ Moore-esque type player, but maybe Jarvis Landry type player. And those are the type of players I like to target in preseason because they get open. And so he's a player that's been getting a ton of hype. And then also looking at it, we do have Kendrick Pryor, last year's preseason standout for the Cincinnati Bengals. It was very surprising cut last year from the Bengals because he stood out. He had himself a really good preseason. So really because of that talent that we saw in film last year, I do want some pieces of him. And logically speaking, he should get at least a half of football. And if they're going to be throwing the football as much as they did last year, I actually don't mind the idea of maybe running with like 3 of them and just trying to hope that we're on the correct receiver that scores a touchdown because, we can have some miss in preseason DFS. And so if we're just stacking the best offense, that can work out for us. On the flip side of it, we do have the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are also going to be a team that we want to be looking at because we do know that Dak is out. This is where I was talking about we are getting some clarity here. Cooper Rush is going to be an option for us. We know, he's a decent backup in the league. We certainly can be looking at him. And then we got Will Greer here as well. Some of that should begin the second half of the game. So both of them are going to be firmly in play. Personally, I think I like Zach Wilson a little bit more, but kind of game script wise, if we are saying that the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to go out and score, that should mean, especially like Will Greer, he should be throwing the football a lot. And maybe Jacksonville, if they're up, they're playing softer coverage because obviously Jacksonville's going to be playing their starters and whatnot. That being said, you kind of expect them to be up then. Will Greer could get some kind of easy dump off pass. Okay, so then we might even be looking at some other players there in the passing game. But running back wise, we do know the jokes that are going on with Deuce Vaughn, but the chances are we are gaining some good RB value here as well. Hunter here, the North Dakota State running back, he's a hard-nosed runner. These are the kind of players I don't mind to target a little bit in preseason NFL DFS. He's most likely going to get the fourth quarter, but we know Mike McCarthy has come out and said these 3 running backs are going to get a decent amount of work. Deuce Vaughn probably going to get a couple of targets, so he should have a little bit of a floor in that regard, but all 3 of these guys are firmly going to be in play. It's just trying to get lucky, trying to get the touchdown. We'll see. They're all fine. And then the one player that's been getting a ton of hype out of camp is Turpin. He was a guy that really stood out in the USFL. Just given the amount of hype that he's still been getting, yeah, certainly someone we want to be looking at. Fiocco is also someone that they do like in that offense, so I just want to call that out as well. Typically someone that does play well in the preseason as well. So if he does get a lot of playing time, certainly someone we can be looking at as well. So another game that we probably do want to attack a little bit is going to be Philly versus Boston, 2 teams that typically speaking in the preseason do give us some good value. The issue that I have with both teams is that they are rostering 4 quarterbacks each. Now, yes, the starters might not start, but then in terms of playing time, we don't exactly know which ones to be on. Both have some rushing quarterbacks that we could be on if we knew for sure that they're going to get a lot of playing time. This is one in the evening slate where if we do get some confirmation that, one of these guys is going to get more playing time than the other, I feel perfectly fine going in on them. So looking at it like Anthony Brown, someone that had a pretty good preseason last year, honestly looks, how Tyler Huntley is like an off-brand version of Lamar Jackson? Anthony Brown is an off-brand version of Tyler Huntley. Okay, they have done a really good job of finding quarterbacks that fit that scheme or had fit that backup quarterbacks in that regard. So when you do have Josh Johnson there, why would he get a lot of playing time? That's my biggest question. Okay. Kind of going for that quarterback 2 spot, but he's a proven veteran. It's just tough to see those guys getting a ton of playing time. So maybe we get Anthony Brown getting a full half of football. That would be nice. At the same time, Ian Book is someone that we looked at a bunch in the preseason, in past seasons. He's someone that can rush the football as well. So maybe something there, but at the same time, for that evening slate, it does feel like we'd be forcing that a little bit. And I should bring that up. I am touching on this as like a separate slate as well because there is the evening slate that we'll be able to focus on as well. So you can both play these players in the full slate, the evening slate, or the showdown slate as well. Looking at the running back position, we'll just touch on it with Philly. So Philly, one player that has been getting a decent amount of hype is Kenny Brooks, but at the same time, it makes sense for him to get some playing time. It makes sense for Trey Sherman to get some playing time. Now, he's just a guy probably going to get the second quarter, maybe the third quarter a little bit, and then we're going to see Kenny Brooks. we know that we want to be on some sort of Philly running back. It's just which one. Looking at the receiver position, I was struggling to find any one of them that stood out. The one player that was standing out was Joseph Nagata. I think that's how you say it. If I'm wrong, I apologize. So many names I cover each day, but he's been someone that has been standing out in preseason, big body guy that they like. So certainly someone that's in play. If you didn't want to play two Jacksonville Jaguars receivers, then I would say, yeah, you probably want to be playing him because he would be the next best option there. And I don't mind that. If you want to diversify your stocks a little bit, that's perfectly fine with me. And then tight end wise, like Jack Stoll, I don't mind. Certainly someone that could pop. But let's go ahead and move on to Baltimore, because typically speaking, Baltimore is the team that just really lights it up for us in the preseason. So I do want to start out with the tight end play, because he's a player that's standing out. And we don't always get like tight end plays that are standing out, but Charlie Collar is someone that has been standing out in camp apparently. Okay, so certainly someone I do think we can be looking at. We did see him, produce in the last game of the season last year as well. He should be on the field a lot. And all we're looking for at the tight end position is a player that's not going to give us a zero. And I think that's what we're getting. Okay, so I'm perfectly fine making him a click. And then from there, looking at the running back position, none of them have really been getting a ton of hype out of camp except for Keontae Mitchell. And we know one thing about the Baltimore Ravens is that they are a good defensive team in the preseason because they just run the football a ton. It's like the Patriots, Raiders, I guess not the Patriots anymore, Raiders, Baltimore, and even the Eagles. Those are teams that you want to be targeting via the running game. Okay, so this actually could be a low scoring game in general because they both kind of tend to run the football a little bit more. I like Keontae Mitchell just given the hype that he's been getting, but this is the most depth that they have had at that running back position in quite some time. So I do want to point that out. Maybe I probably do like him a little bit more than Tank Bigsby, although there's more competition here. Okay, Gus Edwards, does he make sense to get some playing time? Maybe. Melvin Gordon, a veteran, does he make sense to get a lot of playing time? Maybe. We got two fullbacks here though as well, so I do want to point that out. Like, it's not as crowded as it seems. So there's a good chance that he does get that second half work. Receiver-wise, they just have a bunch of names. Honestly, like any one of these guys could do well. Prochet is probably my favorite one. That's about it. Let's go and get into the Battle of LA. All right, so the two LA teams are typically teams that we do get some good preseason plays out of. There typically is some clarity there, although I'm not exactly sure we are actually getting that today. Once again, for the evening slate, though, we should be getting a good play, at least with Easton Stick. He might actually be one of the top quarterback plays in the slate just because he does present us some rushing upside. And Justin Herbert, I just don't expect him to play. Once again, we do need some confirmation on that, though. Running back wise, it's tough to say. They do have some young running backs, so like Josh Kelly makes sense to get playing time. Isaiah Spiller's a guy that makes sense to get playing time. Roundtree makes sense to get some playing time as well. So the one player that has been getting a lot of call outs though is Isaiah Spiller, so I did want to note that for you guys. I guess he'd be the top play then. At the receiver position, they have some decent plays, like Darius Shepard's a decent player, but the one player that's been getting a lot of hype is Darius Davis here, mostly due to his special teams work, but at the same time, we do see that those players just tend to be on the field a little bit more, especially in the first or last preseason game. So, he might be the sixth receiver play on my list, but at the same time, he is on the list. If you are playing that evening slate, he is a play that does make sense as well. Then from there, it does feel like we're just trying to get lucky with some plays. Johnson probably going to get some playing time. We don't expect a lot out of these rookie receivers, but maybe max 4 catches, 4 yards. Like, that'd be lucky. That'd be like 3 series of work where he's just targeted heavily. And then tight end wise, like we have seen Trey McKitty, he is someone that the coach has kind of been vocal about, saying he needs to step up. So maybe that's just more or less, all right, we're going to give you a look. You need to step up for us. It's just a noteworthy piece of information I saw. Looking at the Los Angeles Rams here, another receiver that has really been standing out, and I would say it's tough. So we got Brownlee, Austin, Parker Washington that I like, Turpin that I also like, but we got Puka that's also really stepping up as a player that's been getting a ton of hype out of camp. Now, yes, they have Austin Tremmel, Lance McCutcheon, whatever there as well. Like, those are 3 players that have been getting hype out of previous camps, but I will say, typically speaking, when these players are getting hype out of camp for the Rams, they tend to do well. So he is someone that I certainly am going to be looking at. Like, I'm going to be mixing and matching those like 6 receivers that I mentioned. It is easy to like dial it down, I think, this slate in terms of which players we want to be on. Looking at running back wise, it does make sense for Zach Evans to get a decent amount of work, and even Kyron Williams. Cam Akers doesn't make sense to get a lot of work. Royce Freeman really doesn't make sense for him to get a lot of work. So that really leaves Zach Evans, the rookie, last year's rookie, Kyron Williams, and then Ronnie Rivers. Like, we don't expect anything from him. They all could get playing time though. And, the afternoon slates, yes, Zach Evans, firmly in play though. So looking at it, I do think I will be rolling with Baltimore defense just because they tend to run out the clock. And so kind of here's a first look build. It will be a little bit more mixing and matching, but that's kind of what I'm looking at. Now I do just want to remind you guys of the promo code that I have going on the 9 to 5 website. This is going to be active up until the Tour Championship of Golf. So we got about 2 more weeks left of this promo. You get 50% off your first membership, which is already a $10 membership. So you get it for $5 a month. This is going to be available for new members only. If you're thinking, all right, well, you said golf, when am I getting it for NFL DFS? You get access to the NFL lineup optimizer, which I have already used to take down a showdown and have multiple top 10 finishes thus far this season in the preseason. So hopefully you guys can take advantage of that. I've been trying to input my own projections in there, and that's just going to be kind of a priority ranking list. But that's going to be all for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let's have a good slate. Let's continue to cash. And as always, let's keep cashing.